Hey guys, this is Production Music Live. My name is Francois and today we're going to take a look at the style of Amelie. Many of you guys were asking for it, so let's take a look at how to make this dark techno style here. And first of all, I'm going to start with our bass here because this is kind of the core of this style. We have this reverb kick here, and if I'm going into this track, I have a kick sample here and I have a reverb dry wet up all the way to 100% right after. Let's quickly solo this, only play this track. And you see there must be a filter somewhere, exactly. So we have an EQ here and we have another EQ cutting off the high frequencies right here. Because that is what we are actually doing with this reverb. If I'm taking off overdrive and saturation, it's just a kick being played out in a big hall. Decay time 1.4 seconds and then dry wet up all the way. And then we are throwing some overdrive on top and some saturation. And then we are also sidechaining it to our actual kick so we don't interfere whenever the transient of our kick is playing. And then we are cutting off some of the high frequencies right here with EQ8. And then we're shaping the sound a little more down here. Okay, and the pattern we are playing is very simple. It's an offbeat pattern. Always doing the same thing. And on top of that, we have this attack kick, which is kind of a clicky kick. And that one is playing 2 16th notes right after in this pattern here. And it adds a little bit of movement to the sound. So if we play them together, and you see I've cut off a lot of stuff from this. This also was a kick basically. But you see it also runs through reverb and a lot of processing here. I don't want to go into detail here because any sound would work. This is just artifacts from the sound design process where I was trying to get closer to a track called Follow by Amelie. But it's nothing you should worry about right now. The same goes for our actual kick we are playing. Also, you see we have 3 kick samples here, 2 top kicks and 1 main kick. And they're heavily processed as well. And this is also due to the initial sound design process. So on top of these 2 bass elements, we have a little bit of saturation, compression, EQing, and more saturation going on. And then we're taking off some of the low end in the stereo information below 150 Hertz. And we also have this fade to gray effect right here, which we are using from time to time to keep our arrangement more interesting. Just a reverb and a delay playing together and being filtered up. This is actually a technique I'm using a lot throughout this entire track here to keep it interesting, because basically we are facing an arrangement problem here with this type of techno sound. We are basically working with 1 4 or 8 bar loop here throughout a couple of minutes, the entire song. And it's always playing the same stuff. So what we can do is we can automate fade to grays over time. We can automate some other creative effects or filters, like here in our main synth. We are playing around with resonance and cutoff of our filter to keep it somewhat interesting. Let's actually take a quick look over the entire project here. So we have our kicks group here, then we have our bass group, which we already took a look at. And below that we have a bus where these 2 run through. And then I have a couple of claps here, but they're not really used in the clap position. They're more like effects. I'm going to show them in a minute. And then we have percussions down here. That's a lot of hi-hats and stuff. For example, some quite sharp ones also. And below that, I have our main synth, which plays a very, very simple pattern. And then gets automated cutoff, decay, and resonance. So we are opening up the sound. So you see just a low pass filter with a bit more drive here and 24 decibels per octave. Then we have somewhat a mixture between a saw and a triangular wave here, and we have a pulse wave in the first oscillator and a little bit of unison going on. Reverb applied on top, a little bit of ping pong delay. And you can also see on the master, I'm also using the fade to gray here in this break part. If I were to turn this off. And you can see we also use the reverb automation here from time to time. This is just opening up a reverb, sometimes towards the end of the pattern or the 8-bar loop, or right here it's playing for another 8 bars. This is kind of getting ahead of something that a DJ might do in a live setting or playing at a festival. Usually a DJ puts the filter up, puts some reverb on top. This is already happening here, at least a little bit on the master channel. And okay, so that was our synth. I wanted to show the vocal sample quickly, which is just saying 2 or 3 words. Touch you. Touch you. Touch you. And then reverb and delay applied, and then getting rid of some very nasty high frequencies here, which we don't really want to use. In the effects section down here, we have a couple of Atmo effects. Something sounds a bit more industrial. And basically some noise and white noise. And a clap with a very open reverb here. By the way, all these elements, like the drum samples we're playing here, are out of our D Premium Volume 2 sample pack, our drums pack. You can check the link in the description. And also we just released D Premium Volume 3. And also, this entire Ableton project is available as a template. You can download it from the description as well. And also, I made a complete start to finish course on this specific track here, where I'm building this from a blank Ableton project into the full track over the course of a couple of hours. And I'm recorded everything step by step, and you can like follow along. So feel free to check the link in the description towards this start to finish course. Going back, taking a look at our percussive elements here, I wanted to show you how you can actually like create tension and release with very simple elements. For example, with a clap, and keep it interesting. For example, with this one. So this is moving along quite nicely, and it's actually just a clap sample out of, the claps group here, where we have where is it? Analog 13. This is the sound we're using here, and we are putting it on the kick position as well. And you can see we are generating this moving effect sound, or this riser effect sound, by adding a simple delay and setting our delay times to very short values, 100 milliseconds here, and putting the feedback up super high. And then a little bit of reverb on top of that. The actual trick happens when we introduce the frequency shifter on top of that, and we automate the frequency movement. This will introduce the feeling of the riser. Super handy and nice, and you probably know this type of effect from techno or dark techno productions already. I'm doing somewhat similar things with this clap here, playing a different pattern in the break. And right here I'm playing an actual 4 to 6 delay and chorus on top and some reverb on top, but this time we're automating the filter in our break part. These are very simple elements, and you already have a track that moves quite nicely, and you have some nice ideas for your arrangement just with resonance cutoff, decay, and frequency shifter on this clap and some auto filter on this clap. Right here I've just another impact claps, actually the same sample, but effect chain is a little different, longer decay time here. Yep, that one is just hitting right before our drop. And okay, now let's take a look at our percussions group here. So basically I have a bunch of hi-hat sounds, which is taking the end part of this sample here and then some dissonance auto pan applied. Always works nicely. And what is this? 16th notes pattern with a bit of velocity moving along, but not really. We haven't even applied a swing here, so we could still go to the groove pool and put some swing on there. We have a little bit of movement through the velocity. And below that, white hat. It's just this main element here in the offbeat position, and that's combined with this one. I noticed this was done a lot in Follow by Amelie. What's that? Yeah, this one just like adds a little bit of crunchy noise. And what do we have here? It's like marching along, gives this marching techno feeling here. And then get it from left to right with the auto panning, so it keeps moving. So this kick is layered, top kick and mid kick and sub kick. And in this part, still not sure if I want to use the top kick or not. That's up to you to decide. Also, we could try a completely different kick here, actually. If I'm quickly going to our techno templates here, Panorama is one with an interesting kick. That's kind of cool. You know, that's something I really like about Ableton. I don't even have to open these projects now. I can just like, this is an Ableton project file. This is the actual file and this is the folder. And if I sort of open the file here, I can see if I named them right and nicely. These are different groups here: kick, bass, snare, percussion, synth, effects. And if I just want to pick out some kicks, this is probably our main kick, so it's not that nicely labeled anymore, but let's quickly take the entire group, drag it over here, and we can use it right away in our project and exchange it. Maybe it's a bit too loud. It has some automation here. Right here, low cut. So let's do this again. Okay, so now we have two reverb kicks because there's another one here. Doing basically the same job this one is already doing. So I'm turning that one off, and this should be the main kick. Yeah, by the way, it's also from the Premium Volume 2, and this should be... Okay, that's the one moving. What's this one doing? Okay, taking that down. Well, I don't know. It's up to you to decide. It's something I do a lot whenever I'm not sure if I'm using the right sound or I want to get stuff done very quickly. I'm kind of taking advantage of the fact that I have some finished projects already. And sometimes you're like, hey, in this other project, I have this nice bass sound. I might as well use it right here, other than, you know, starting everything from scratch all the time. Because, you know, sometimes you have deadlines or a project needs to be finished at some point. And being a little bit more organized with your templates or your project files in that case, or, you know, and also your sound packs and samples and stuff like that really helps. Now I'm going to stick with the initial kick here and just going back to where we just left off down here with the percussions group. And I think there was something interesting with this snare effect right here. Also something that helps you arrange your track over the course of several minutes. Yeah, it also has another frequency shifter here. So we have a couple of effects here. On the entire group, we have reverb opening up. If we quickly disregard this and only look at this snare here, that was a snare sound. And taking off the simple delay, taking off the shifter and chorus. You see, we faded this one in very late. So fade in 100 milliseconds, and then what we're placing on top is this simple delay. Giving it a completely different vibe. Chorus. Mess around with the frequency shifter again. Only use the frequencies you want to use and reverb on top. And that's how we can like create our own riser and transition effects for this type of music. Okay, so these are a couple of tricks around creating this genre. I can't show everything because it just takes forever to do that. But I have a complete start to finish course on this project, and you can check the link in the description. If you just feel like you want to mess around with some of the samples we used here, feel free to check out our pack, the Premium Volume 2. You can also simply pick up the project file that's being used here and mess around with it yourself, and maybe use it as a starting point for your studio session. Feel free to visit productionmusiclive.com, our website supporting this channel and giving us the ability to put out content like this. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.